Welcome everyone for one of your afternoon talks. So this is about confidence building with the Great Reset, and I'd like to welcome Jennifer Schneider to join us today, who's going to come and talk to us about all sorts of things about how the outside helps the inside and wonderful stuff like that. So I'm going to pass it over to her and also get her presentation up.
Very good. Thank you, Lucy. And thanks everybody for having me. I hope you've had a fantastic day so far, that you've been really enjoying the conference. It sounds like an amazing experience. And so today I'll introduce myself, but I just want to give you a little bit of running structure first before we jump into it. So I will just very briefly explain who I am and what the loved object is. And then I will go into, sorry, Luz, I think, can I hear you in the background? I think maybe I've got two mics for you. I can see one mic is off and one mic is maybe on.
I don't think I'm not.
Is it me getting feedback on myself? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll start with a little bit about me and the loved object and really what we're doing. But for me, when I attend conferences or workshops, I really want to put things into action. And so today I've done a learning exercise with some amazing volunteers from your ambassador list. And we're going to learn based on their experiences, because I think that's really how we put things into practice. And then we're going to have a lovely Q&A at the end, because I want to give lots of space and opportunity to ask any questions that you have. You can either type your question in and Lucy can ask me, or you can say, I've got a question, I'd love to come on screen and ask Jennifer. I just want to preface that whilst we're talking about style and it can feel like an intimidating space, this is a very friendly, encouraging, open space. And every question is welcome around style and wardrobe. If you want love advice, we can go have a drink later. So I'll jump into a little bit about me. So like Lucy said, my name is Jennifer Schneider. I am the founder of The Loved Object, and it is a image and style consultancy business. Really, we call me an image architect, because what I'm doing is I'm crafting a visual representation of who you are. So it's another way of expressing yourself, and a lot of people don't understand the power of clothing to do that. My background, I am Canadian. If you hear a funny accent, it sounds a little Irish, I hear. I think I'm lost in the Atlantic. I've been in the UK since '08, so I've been here a while and very proudly British. I went to St. Martin's studying fashion history and theory, and I've worked for some fabulous brands, Burberry, Dolce & Gabbana, Selfridges, and my last role was with a designer named Amelia Wickstead. And I'm also a trustee of the fabulous charity called Dress for Success, which is really supporting women from disadvantaged situations get back into the workplace. And we wardrobe them, we work on their CV, we teach them confidence. It's really empowering. So if you haven't heard anything about it before, please, I see, Maria, you love Dress for Success. I love them too. So if you're not familiar, please check them out. If you want any information on anything, I'm always really happy to hear from everyone. So it was at this time when I was working for Amelia Wickstead that I really had my aha moment. I was head of sales. I was building all of these verticals for the business. She started with a made-to-measure business, which is quite beautiful because garments are made to your specifications. What is perfect for you is what we produced. And when I came in, it was how do we replicate that and put it into lots of different verticals. But I really fell in love with this business model, because everyone who came in, I could make them radiate with their natural innate beauty. And I promise you, I have seen so many women naked, it's not even funny, models all the way through. And what was really interesting in this moment is that every woman is beautiful and nobody is perfect. Therefore, everybody is perfect. We've been preached this idea that there's a perfection, and if we just consume products that we might get there, and it's this perpetual hamster wheel. And it was such a revelation for me to be in this opportunity to see these incredibly beautiful women and see, yet, we need to shift this and we need to shift that. And I saw the power, the transformative power of having clothes made perfectly for you, what that did for them and their confidence and their careers. And I just saw saw these women shining, and I was getting all these amazing referrals, and all these people were coming to see me. But I was quite limited in terms of I had a single brand with a specific aesthetic and a certain price point. And so I thought to myself, how can I take this experience and offer it to women everywhere at every price point? And really what it is teaching them what their innate beauty is, and then how to shop the market to find those pieces that suit you. So instead of saying this is an ideal, I'm striving for that, saying I am fabulous as me. Who are the brands and what are the products that support who I am? So this has been my mission. I started the business. I just celebrated this spring, my 5-year anniversary. As soon as we can have big in-person celebrations, I'm really hoping that I can have a big party, and you're all very welcome to come. But that's really where I started, and it's to communicate with women that message and then give them the tools to make it happen. I liken it like making bolognese. You can have all the ingredients, but if somebody doesn't teach you how to make a bolognese and the order of things, then you don't know how to put it together. But as soon as somebody teaches you how to make a bolognese, you remember, and you know that one happens to the next to the next. For me, style is much the same, and it's just about teaching you the principles and in what order in a really fun way. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have 3 case studies that we're going to jump into. We're going to start with me, because I think that I need to be vulnerable and show that I taught myself how to have great style. And so it's definitely something that can be learned. Beauty is innate, but style can be taught. And I've been talking a lot about recently the Great Reset, and why I'm so excited to have this conversation now at this time with as many people as possible is because the period of COVID and working from home has offered us an amazing opportunity to, for the first time, to just take a pause and think and maybe decide how we want to communicate who we are with the world. We have an opportunity, while dress codes are loosening and ways of working are changing and organizations are really opening their minds to different ways of everything, that we have this opportunity to explore and to define how we want to be perceived. And like it or not, 80% of your first impression when somebody meets you is visual, it's image-based. So that is hugely powerful. And I want everyone to be able to harness that from a really positive place and to feel really confident by using their image to communicate who they are. So that's why I've been talking about this Great Reset. And this is such a beautiful moment to see the beauty in yourself and see the beauty in those around you. And that's also what we're going to do in this exercise, is I'm going to explain the beauty of each one of us girls and how I, as a stylist, would shine the light on that beauty. And then you can start to see how it could work for yourself. So we will jump into me first, being vulnerable. And what we're going to do in this exercise today is we're going to talk about 4 different things. So first, we're going to talk about the colors, your natural colors. So whether you're a warm or a cool color, and then how you use color in clothing to highlight and bring energy to your face. That's a really good trick. The second is body shape. So we're going to use my body, Lucy's, and Gemma's, who you see later, to discuss different body shapes and where the lines are. Because if you understand how to highlight the shape of your lines, that makes a huge difference when you're shopping. You know what you're looking for, you know what's going to look best on you, and you know why. So that anytime you go out shopping, you can make better decisions to support you, which also helps with consumption. I see so many wardrobes filled with great intentions, but because of that lack of knowledge on that piece, they're not being worn. And nobody feels good about that. Nobody feels good about wasting money. And Lucy's nodding. Nobody feels good about that. And so what this does is helps you make those decisions so that what goes into your wardrobe with your hard-earned money that you're spending on it, you're able to wear as much as possible. On that note, I'd like to give just one little tip, because I might forget later, is whenever I'm buying a garment for a client or myself, I always have a rule of 3. So if I'm closing my 3 fingers, you can't see that. I always have a rule of 3. So say this top that I'm wearing, when I was purchasing it, I was thinking, how are 3 very different ways that I could style it in my wardrobe? And do I have the pieces that are required to be able to style it that way? If you don't have those pieces, but you love the top or whatever it is, say, am I willing to invest to buy the other pieces to make this work? Because that might be a progression and a shift in your style. Or you say, you know what, I love this, but it doesn't fit with the rest of my wardrobe. Let me think about what I loved about this. Let me find another version that does fit with my wardrobe. Just changing that one thinking perspective when you're shopping will make sure that your wardrobe is really hyper functional and you can get as much out of it, because that's ideally what we want, is to be able to wear our clothes lots of different ways, dressing up, dressing down, traveling. Also makes, when we can fly again, makes packing a carry-on really easy. Then we're going to talk about an example where we've looked terrible, and I promise you I'm not looking so good in that third image, and really how I learned from that experience. And then an image where we're looking fabulous, and one of my favorite pictures of me on the far right. So I'll just go bit by bit through me as an example, then we'll do Lucy, and then we'll do Gemma. So you have 3 different learning examples. So colors. Now I'm quite pale, and it makes it a little bit harder to read if I am warm or cool. If you're struggling to understand if warm or cool is good for you, what I suggest to do is go to a store and choose a color where there's a lot of options in the store of that color. So say like green. Green's quite popular right now, so it's a good one to go in. Say you go into Zara, pull all the green things that you can see, put them on, take a picture of yourself. By taking a picture, you're removing yourself and you're allowing yourself to view it as an image. You're taking yourself out of the moment. And then you'll be able to see quite clearly that the cool green, you're looking quite drawn and washed out. And we have examples coming up to explain this better. And when you have a warm green, like what I have today, you can see it brings light to your face. And so I'm a warm tone and I have dark features, so I need stronger, kind of richer tones against my skin. So the good exercise is figure out if you're warm or cool, and I'll explain that as we go on here. Body shape. Now, there are a lot of different body shapes out there, and no body shape is perfect. So I am technically an hourglass. I know that because if I look from my shoulder, can you see my mouse, everybody? Yeah, perfect. If I look from my shoulder to my hip, they're pretty much in line. And then I go in at the waist. That is the technicality of an hourglass. Now, I'm not this voluptuous, curvy hourglass by any means. I just have a subtle curve that's coming in, but I can measure from that point. This is relevant and important only because what you want to do is find your points of definition. And so for me, if I wore something falling straight off my shoulder, falling straight down, I would look really big because it's going to hit my bust and straight to my hip. I don't have any waist definition. So with an hourglass, what you always want is to bring definition to your waist. If you want to create length, think about wearing garments that are lengthening from top to bottom. So that create maybe a V neckline, that creates a vertical line. That's a lengthening technique. If I had a huge full skirt coming off my waist, hitting out my hip and going out into an A line, I would look quite full in my hip. So instead, I'm going to wear a skirt that follows my hip line and then falls down, because that's creating more of a vertical line versus a horizontal. The key here is knowing that if you are an hourglass, that you want to have definition really at your waist. Otherwise, you're going to fall really wide from your shoulders down. I will explain this in the next image, which is me looking really terrible. Fine. So me on the left. This is 2009. I had moved to New Zealand for a boy. I had a complete identity crisis. I dyed my hair a terrible shade of blonde. I could definitely wear blonde, but this is a very cool shade of blonde that's not supporting me at all. And do you see that I'm wearing something that's falling straight from my shoulder to my hip? Can you see how wide and boxy I am looking through my hip? It's really not flattering. And by wearing this bandeau style across my bust, it's really amplifying my bust and making it look much, much larger than it is. And so really what I've done is I've created a big square instead of a nice vertical line. In the image on the right, conversely, by showing my silhouette more and wearing a skirt that is not super fitted over my hip, but doesn't have a huge amount of volume coming off the waistband, but falling straight, I have much more defined silhouette here, and I look more true to myself. versus having something that is just a lot of volume in weird places. Also wearing a long top and then crop trousers. What I've done is I've shortened my extremely long legs. I'm quite short-waisted. And so wearing a longer top is an idea that works to elongate your short torso. But by wearing a crop trouser, what I've done is I've just squeezed the whole thing in, and I've made myself look a lot more squat and a lot wider than I am. These tones that I'm wearing are also cool tones. They're from more of an icy family. They have a more blue base. Optical white is like that, or this really soft pink. I love those colors. I was in denial for a long time. I wanted to wear them, and I can wear a soft pink, but I need to wear a warm pink. Now, obviously this is orange, but I need to wear something in a warm tone. So can you see here how by wearing my natural hair color that's naturally warm, I have a little bit of a tan, but probably not much more than when I had in New Zealand, to be honest. But by wearing a color that's vibrant and warm, it's bringing light to my face. It's literally lighting me up and making me look really lovely and approachable. And that's how powerful color can be. So now I want to teach you on Lucy. And Lucy is a really cool example in Converse for me, because Lucy is a cool tone. So if you think about how I was looking in that orange outfit, and now if you look at Lucy here, you can see that she's much cooler in her features, right? You can see these little pops of pink. They're looking really lovely. She's lit. She's looking really vibrant versus Sick Jen in the old slide. Can we flick back just for a second, Luce? I want to show them, look at me in the pink outfit. You see, I'm drawn. I'm not, there's no kind of life to my skin. Now let's go back to Lucy. Here you can see it's really supporting her. So that's why it's important to understand, at least if you're a warm tone or a cool tone. And that exercise of trying on lots of shades of green or blue or whatever you wanted to try, there's always the right shade of every color for you. That's the other myth. That's lesson number 2 is, people say to me, oh, I can't wear yellow. It's not good on me. No, it was the wrong yellow for you. There's a great color of yellow for everybody, believe it or not. And for Lucy, it's a nice icy one. For me, it's a more golden mustardy one. So it's just understanding that tonality. Now, Lucy, I'd love if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit, because I speak a lot about you, but for those who don't know you, it would probably be good.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. And so, yes, I'm Lucy. I work for Women in Games in their marketing partnerships director, but I also have my own company as well. And then, outside work, I spend time with family, go out for dinner and drinks. But yes, this is a fun activity. But I will say to everyone, there is definitely pandemic COVID extras in the next photos.
We all have them.
I think everyone's there. So
everyone's there, and what we're doing is it's a nurturing place, right? It's understanding so that we can put things on and feel great about ourselves. So I hear you, Lucy. Okay, so we talked about Lucy being cool. Gemma, I'm definitely there. Yeah, I'm definitely there as well. I also had a baby, so I'm just feeling a little bit out of sorts at the moment, but we'll get there, right? Slowly and surely. I'm just listening I'm just going to read this here, Monica. Sorry, I'm struggling to understand why we're talking about how we should look. I feel that this is a really wrong message in the more important discussion of how we can empower women in male-dominant environment. That is the game industry. Yeah, so I'd love to answer that right now if you don't mind, and then we'll continue to go into this. We are often told how we need to look and appear to exist in certain constructs of industries. And really, by having that ownership of your personal brand, we are able to come in and speak with authority and with authenticity. And for some women, and it might not be the case for you, for some women, they feel that they've really been told how they should look in an organization and in their company. And it's encompassing on the whole level. So confidence is from a lot of sides, and I'm speaking from a style lens and how we can build a confident image and how that enables us to walk in confidently into a tough meeting. And it's almost like putting on your armor, right? To walk in and be brave and raise your hand and push forward. not everyone sees that image has that type of power, and that's why it's a big message for me to share. But confidence comes from a lot of places, also from an acceptance place. Image is something that a lot of women struggle to have acceptance of, and it's really, that's my other message, is that every woman is beautiful, and it's not accepting, it's saying I am fabulous as me. And I know that there's been a lot of messaging that said otherwise over decades, and so it's really changing the conversation around that side. But I agree, confidence comes from a lot of lenses, and I speak often in tandem with other experts on this field, therapists, coaches, all aspects, but each one I believe is really important. And I know for myself how transformative it was, and I know with my clients in industries and especially dominated, male dominated work environments, how this exercise has been hugely confidence inducing and really helped them earn promotions, push forward, get bigger jobs, come in and negotiate better salaries. They've told me time and again over the last 5 years, my women who mostly work in male dominated industries, that's my primary customer, that it's been hugely impactful. So I hope this does help from that side, but we can definitely continue that conversation. Lucy, did you want to add anything?
Totally. No, I was just going to say, I think we look at it, as you're saying, confidence is a complete whole. And look, I'm coming from someone as well. I've had kids, I've been in different careers, and actually it's been many a time I felt very underconfident in my own body shape, or underconfident in how I feel. And that's sort of, it does come across in your everyday life. The other thing I would say is, this isn't just for women. Ultimately, what Jennifer does is for men as well, and that everyone's whole image can do that. And I understand, Monica, what you're saying about you going to meetings with men with hoodies, but this is also about being, like giving your confidence. I mean, if you're confident in a hoodie, wear a hoodie. But for me, sometimes actually my outside does help me to move forward in what I'm doing.
Definitely. And also, that's again men dictating what the dress code is. And what this is about is saying, if you want to wear a hoodie, great, fabulous. Here's how to find one that's going to work well for you, so you come in and you look great and you feel confident. But you don't have to wear a hoodie, and that's the problem. Whatever industry, there's been kind of this standardized dressing code that's been set by men. And what this is about is saying, you don't have to do that. Dress how you feel good in yourself. But here's some tools that help you understand how to buy the best pieces for you.
Totally. And I don't know, when I make the efforts, I make the effort for me. And I don't make it for anyone else in the room or to anything else. The effort is for me. So when I do that, and you know what, I've worked in big games companies, and some days I've been in a dress and heels because that's what I want to wear that day, and that's giving me the confidence to do what I want, compared to other days I've worn a hoodie. And it's not conforming for, I don't want to conform to what everyone else is saying. I want to make sure the outside gives off this portrayal of confidence, and that gives me that inside. So
absolutely. Even, when I was working at Burberry, it was a very specific dress code that you had to dress to, because you were representing a brand. And that's I understand why there has been guidance put in place, but it's been so restrictive in that way. And to your point, Lucy, it's the same for me. There's days where I go in wearing a hoodie as well. I have a beautiful gray cashmere hoodie that follows the silhouette of my body. So I'm dressed down, and that's the energy that I want for that day. But it's nurturing, and it feels good for me, and it gives me the comfort that I need in that situation to walk in. Just like I wore this top today. I love the structure of it. It has a formality to it. It has an incredible color. I always think I look really nice in this color. So I chose it for today because I wanted to highlight how you can use color and something with a bit more structure to give the sense of competence, right? So there's a lot that can be layered into the clothing. But I'd love to have a conversation with you, Monica, about it afterwards, or when we hit the Q&A, we can definitely, because I understand 100% where you're coming from, and that's exactly why this business exists, to answer that. So I'll jump back into Lucy here, just to talk about body shape. So with Lucy, she is an apple body shape. So what that means is that when she's gaining weight, it's going to go to the middle section. When I gain weight, it goes right to my butt and my thighs. So we all have these different spots where it focuses. Lucy has an incredible collarbones, really beautiful, this open. She's got fabulous arms. She's got great legs. And so what we want to do is always highlight these beautiful areas. So an open neckline on Lucy will lighten and bring to her face a lot of energy. By wearing something that shows off her great arms, and where she can wear something a little bit shorter with her legs, or something more defined, that's really, really flattering and beautiful areas to highlight on that. I think, Lucy, if you're right with it, we'll jump to the next slide, and then we can talk about how you were feeling poorly in the first look and how you were feeling better in the second. And then I can articulate these lessons on color and on body shape.
Great. So actually the first one is actually something my mother bought me for Christmas, and maybe that has an impact. But I felt I looked like a little ball on legs, to be honest. In that image, and although it was a V-neck, which is generally what I wear, it just didn't feel quite right. And the second one, I just kind of love the colors. I love blue anyway, and the kind of feel it has to it all. So I like the elongating of the body.
Perfect. Can we flick back for a second to the last slide, if you don't mind, darling? So here, the other point that I want to illustrate is that Lucy's waistline sits quite a bit higher, which is very common with an apple body shape. So you can see the indentation here, which means that's also the line that works really well for definition on her body, is doing more like an empire line. If we flick over back to the next slides, the challenge is exactly that with this top, is that there's no definition in through. So yes, it has an open neckline, but quite a narrow one, where conversely, the neckline on this dress is much more open. And that's exactly that beauty that I was saying about Lucy. It just frames you really lovely. And then here you have, there is a little bit of a waistline detail. If it was raised a little bit more to be closer to your bust, that would be an even more perfect spot to have the dress fall down from. So that's being pedantic, but it's really, that's exactly why this one is lacking that shape, where this outfit actually has that framing neckline, and it has that waist definition. And then by actually having this layer over top, what it does is it creates that elongating focus, versus the square, which I had in my look that I felt terrible in. Instead, we have this long, beautiful silhouette, an amazing draped sideways 3/4 sleeve, which is very comfortable, is very flattering. And we've got your amazing legs out. I know it's cropped in, so we can't see all of your legs, but you've definitely got your amazing legs out. And then we also have beautiful colors for you. So your pastels, everything is really soft on your face. Fine, perfect. So then we'll jump to Gemma. So Gemma and I actually have the same coloring, and you can see here, she has warm skin. She's got these beautiful freckles, these amazing green eyes, lovely warm hair. You can see that Gemma has a real warmth to her skin. So tonally, we're much similar. And funny enough, she's wearing green in this picture. So you can see how it's really flattering on her. Lucy, do you want to introduce Gemma, just for those who might not know her?
Oh, so Gemma we saw speaking earlier on today. So she's obviously Ambassador Director at Women in Games, but also the COO of Dovetail Games. So she is a busy woman who's got kids, and she's very focused on the business and everything else, and passionate about work. And yeah, that's Gemma.
Yeah, Gemma's lovely. So Lucy and I, we met first, and then I had a wonderful opportunity to meet Gemma, and they've both been so welcoming and in including me and asking me to share today. So let's talk about Gemma in a little bit more detail then. So Gemma is similar to me in that she also has an hourglass silhouette. You can see the waist definition, and you can see that she's similar from shoulder to hip. I'll just briefly speak about two other body shapes whilst we're in here. So an inverted triangle is when you have a wider shoulder and to a narrower hip. And in that instance, what you're highlighting is those hips, and you're creating the balance between the shoulder and the hip. With an hourglass, you have that balance already, and you have this lovely central line that you're working to, much like Lucy's central line, which is a little bit raised, and mine is actually raised as well, because I'm short in the torso. Ignore the odd socks. I didn't even notice that. How funny. Thank you, darling, for raising that. So let's go then to the next images of Gemma. So you can see the big kind of overarching lesson is that you need to have some kind of definition on your body. When we're wearing these loose silhouettes, we're drowning in them. We're really losing the visibility of ourselves. And often that's what women are saying, I'm hiding behind my clothes. You know, I'm hiding and I'm kind of sneaking in. And what we want to do is we want to come with confidence with our clothes. And so if you look at the amazing dress, Gemma, I love this dress on the right. It's fabulous. It follows the silhouette of your body beautifully into your waist. It comes to a really lovely 3/4 length, which is super flattering for almost everybody, you know, stopping at the end of your calf. It's a really elegant silhouette. It's also super wearable. It's very comfortable, very walkable, with a lot of different types of shoes. The color combination is perfect. That deep kind of caramelly, well, it's not a deep brown, but that caramel, that rich, deep caramel. And then with the navy blue, they're beautiful colors. You can see that you're radiating with it, where the one on the left, it doesn't have enough energy. It's a bit flat. It's just, it's pulling back for you. Somebody who has softer features, but in a warm tone, that would bring more to their face, bring more energy to them. But because you've got this lovely strong coloring, we want something that matches the coloring and the energy of it. And then having this meandering line going down the front, again, it creates that vertical line. So with everything, vertical lines are always really helpful, and there's lots of different ways to get there. So what body shape would the top left work on? That's a great question, Jasmine. And that's the other body shape that I was going to talk about, which is a rectangular. So a little bit can we go back on Gemma's body shape? Just back. So you know how I was talking about an inverted is coming in narrow. It can work on an inverted, but it would be best to put a belt on it just to give a little bit of shape. But it works really well on a rectangular. So a rectangular is falling really straight. That's what they'll call like le garçon. So kind of the boy silhouette and cut. But really where it would be best is if it was longer. Can we go back? No, sorry, Lucy. Lucy's driving for me. And in the end, maybe it was more difficult than me driving myself. The challenge is actually where it's stopping. So because it's stopping at this point, it's really cutting the body in a funny spot. So this silhouette is best if it's worn as a dress, and then it's fabulous on a rectangle. It can be really good on an inverted triangle as well, as long as there's not too much volume out of the shoulder, because if you're already broader on your shoulder and you're adding more volume, it's going to make you look more voluminous in your shoulder. So as long as it's sitting nice to the shoulder on the body. But then for all of us, if we did some kind of waist definition, so, you know, we were talking about Lucy's dress where it had that stitch line, it's then having a stitch line where your waistline is. And so with a rectangular, there isn't a waistline, which means you can put it in wherever you want. You can wear it low slung on your hip. You can wear it more on your waist and create the illusion of an hourglass. You can wear it a little bit higher and play with that with more volume at the bottom. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. But the problem is more where it's hitting on the leg. If it was hitting shorter, coming up at the top of the hip, and not stealing so much into the bum and the hip, it would be more flattering. Or if you go longer into a dress, then it would also be more flattering. So it's the point of that. But Jasmine, that's a brilliant question. Thank you very much. This is why questions are good. Okay, so let's then jump forward. Right, so this is the philosophy that I use with, you're very welcome, Jasmine. This is the philosophy that I use with all of my clients. Like I was saying, I started the company 5 years ago. I've been so lucky that it's been growing through word of mouth, through really the amazing transformation that my clients have been experiencing. And what we've challenged me with, really the team has challenged me with, is how do we have this at different access points so that people can engage with it in a way that works best with them. So for a long time, I worked just on an individual basis, which is where I do everything for you. So we have a beautiful dialogue and conversation. I ask all the probing questions, but I'm really making it happen. So that's where you're time poor, you're not interested, but you understand the importance and the value of doing it. Then we developed a master masterclass series a year ago. Through COVID, I was doing a lot of workshops, but because of COVID, we then transferred it to a masterclass, and that's been beautiful. You learn with a small group of like-minded women. There's 6 of you, and we work together. So we have framing discussions, and in the really critical moments, I'm doing work alongside you, but you're actually also doing the shopping, you're putting things into action. So we're working in a symbiotic nature. And what we're really excited about is that in the autumn, we're launching a self-study, which is an app. I'm really excited about it. It's taking the same philosophy, but you're learning every day 5 minutes. And what they are is they're micro lessons that are compounding. So as you go through the journey, each is layering on top of each other. There are some sessions where they're on the weekends. Every once in a while, they're longer, like you need to do a wardrobe detox. I can't do that in 5 minutes. But daily working days, they're 5 minutes. So we really start with a self-discovery piece. Who am I? How do I want to communicate who I am with the world? How do I want to be perceived? What is the message I'm trying to portray? Do I want to walk in and look powerful and, go and close that deal? Do I want to have a more approachable feeling for my team? I want them to feel it's a very nurturing environment. It's how do we then construct the image that way? Then we do the design side, which is big blue sky. You paint me the most beautiful picture you can dream up. No limits. All limiting beliefs removed. As much money, whatever you wish, you paint me this beautiful picture. And then we go to the design section. And that's where I explain, like I did with the girls today, what are the specific nuances with you that enable you to create that vision that you had. And then we have a do section, because I think with all learnings, we need to have the action and we do it together. So that's where you have a feedback loop. With me on an individual, I'm doing it for you, masterclass together, and self-study, you're doing the work, submitting it to me and the team, and we're answering you back. So no matter what, someone is holding your hand through the journey. It's just how much ownership over the construction you want to have. But we're always here, and that's really important for me. If you're interested in more information on any of the ways working with me or all of them, Lucy has just dropped in a form where you literally just tell me which one you're interested in, your email address, and we'll set up a 20-minute chat and we can talk through all of them, any questions that you have. If you wanted to ask me what colors were yours or what your body shape was in that call, I'm super happy to tell you as well. But yeah, we would love to hear from you. Now I want to open up for, oh yes, and also if you wanted to be an insider. So if you like this lesson, on Instagram, I teach little micro lessons, but for my community, we have everyone sign up, and once a month, I teach a thematic lesson to what's happening in that moment and giving a lot of this advice, but digging deeper into it. So if you really liked it, please sign up and be an insider and join me in the community there. Okay, so I want to go over to a Q&A. I know Lucy has been stocking some questions for me, stockpiling some, but also, again, if you had any and you just wanted to type them in and have Lucy read them, that's super cool. If you wanted to ask me something specifically yourself, just say, hey, I've got a question. I want to come on the screen, and I look forward to them.
No, that's fab. Thank you, Jennifer. And do you know what? I find this really useful because of, as I said, I think through my life, you go through so many different iterations of yourself and that you kind of lose track. And particularly once what you've done as well, like having kids, your body shape changes again from what you were when you were before. And actually going through your career, I mean, look, I know it's the classic old adage of, dress for the job you want rather than the job you have as well. That in my mind, that's sort of really helps. But there was something fantastic you said to me before about wardrobe. So I was chatting to Jennifer a little while ago and said that I, without a doubt, have this many clothes I wear, and then loads of the ones that perhaps aren't fitting me right at the moment. And you were great because you kind of told me to get rid of those ones.
Well, you were saying, yeah, you had clothes that when you looked at them, they made you sad. And I was like, then they gotta go. They gotta go. And if there was a lot, we can probably close down the presentation as well, Lucy. If there are pieces that you love and you're in this state of change, I'm not about throwing everything away. I think consciousness around consumption and what we have is important, but I pack things away. Like when I was pregnant, I packed away the things that I wasn't wearing because looking at them was going to make me sad, even though I was super happy to be pregnant and enjoying my clothes, but I loved everything that was there. So I packed them away. And I think, it's doing yourself a disservice. What you want are things in your wardrobe that support you, that make you feel great about yourself, that you open it and you're like, oh, I love everything. I know quickly what I want to throw on and it's going to support me in my day and I'm going to go and kick butt, right? And so that's what I was saying to you. If it makes you sad,
Definitely.
pack it up.
Oh, totally. I think that's fantastic, and I think that's definitely, the way you want to feel that everything should be a positive in your life, because then that gives you everything positive out. But I know Bev has asked you a question as well, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So Beth, there's a couple ways that I could answer this depending on what your requirements are. So not wearing heels, that's cool. I have a lot of girls that wear heels, and most of the time I don't either. But is it a more structured shoe that way? Because there's advice around something that's a more extreme comfort, and then I'll speak to both, and then everyone can take from it what they want. So if you don't wear a heel, that's absolutely fine. Ballet flats are really problematic. They're actually terribly bad for your back and your hips because your foot is exactly flat. And that is not how anybody should be standing. If you look at, say, men's dress shoes, there's like a little heel on the bottom. You always need a little elevation. So whatever shoe you're looking at, just make sure that it has a proper support going from your heel to your foot or to the front of your foot. Now I wear like a brogue or a men's loafer, and there's some more elegant, slimmer lined ones, and there's some chunkier ones, and I have both depending on what I'm wearing. If I'm wearing something that's more elegant and more slim, then I wear the more elegant one, and if I wear something that's a little bit cooler and needs a bit of substance in the shoe, then I wear the chunky fat one. But there's some really lovely, they kind of look like ballerinas, but with a little bit more of a pointed toe, not a super pointed, but just something a little bit more elongating. So maybe an almond, or it's a soft rounded with just like, half an inch to an inch. That's a really good support. The half an inch is not a heel. That's just giving you proper arch support, which should really help if you have any lower back issues or hip issues. That should actually help sort that out a little bit. I don't know why you can't wear heels. Some clients also, it's from a bunion's perspective, or they've had a surgery, or they have a dropped arch, or, there's a million reasons. So it's also, that's where investing in good quality shoes is a really good idea. Arches, fine. So is your foot narrow or wide, Bev? Narrow. Okay. So French design shoes will be best for you. Italians and Spaniards, they cut wider. French and English, they typically cut narrower. So one, it's knowing who is cutting for your foot. The second is then looking for ones that do proper arch support. Interestingly, Salvador Ferragamo, he invented arch support. He studied anatomy, and he was the first person to create that support in a shoe. He also created different width variances. Like we have different lengths, we also have different widths. And so a company like that, a shoe company that's really focused on proper support, is the better place to look because they have that naturally built in. And then the other thing that I had to do for a period of time, because I had some funny things with my knee, so I had to wear insoles, is I have some really nice insoles that were made for me that support the arch on my left foot, because it was everything was kind of falling out of whack. I think from years of wearing crappy ballerinas, to be honest. And I just changed that in and out of my shoes. So always my left shoe, I just didn't have, I didn't have the insole in it. I would just flip it around in between them, and finding ones that have higher sides, higher shoes, or wearing more like a brogue or a loafer, because then you've got the support of the whole foot. What you don't want is shoes cut really narrow and low on the side, because that's not going to support you. And that's probably the problem with heels. You might be able to wear a heel in a boot where you've got more control and your foot is being held in. Also, look for shoes that have a rubber sole on the bottom versus a leather. The leather is beautiful, but the rubber absorbs the shock from the pavement and it makes it a lot more wearable, a lot more comfortable. And you can get a rubber put onto a leather sole. Sorry, Luce, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that's fantastic. There's actually, I found there's some other questions for you in the Q&A bit. So I know you're in depth in boots, which is fab. But if you're happy, we can go on to Rosie's question, which is what are some good basic staple pieces you would suggest to get for this summer, particularly for work?
Fine. So I am very much an anti-stylist in that way, in that I don't like being prescriptive on what people should wear. But I do have a formula that I think works really well that you can apply to when you're thinking about what you want to go back to the office. For me, I think, especially we live in England, and it was beautiful this morning and now it's raining again. A coat is probably the best purchase you could ever make. And for me, I love to start building a wardrobe from a coat and working backwards. And now is a particularly good time because sale is starting imminently. And coats often go into sale at a good price when they're not boring and basic. So think about this. You walk into a room, into a meeting, you're going in to see an external company, right? You come in with your coat and it's black. The first thing they see has no personality and has no color. That's not going to help them understand who you are. So I always like to choose my outerwear with personality. Now, that just might be a lovely texture. Maybe you do buy black, but it has a lovely texture, has beautiful details. It's a really lovely quality. That's fine. That shows that you value something soft and subtle and quiet, but quality, right? But they're all signals. You're messaging here. I like to do an energetic coat, something with a print, or it might be graphic, it might be floral, it might a bold color, but I would start with a fabulous coat and work backwards. My coats, I usually try and get them quite long, so to mid calf, because then they work with everything, dress, trouser, anything you put underneath. The coat, as long as it's longer than what's underneath, always works. That's a good little trick, actually. Your coat hem should always be longer than the garment you're wearing underneath. You could wear a short skirt and a long coat, looks fine. You can wear a long dress and a long coat, looks fab. You wear a long dress and a short coat, doesn't look good. Because logically, the coat is to protect the clothes that's underneath. So if the clothes are poking out, from a logic perspective, it actually doesn't work, which subconsciously, when you look at it, it's jarring. So I would start from the coat in. And then if you like to wear dresses, I would then find a fabulous dress that you can wear at least 3 different ways with that coat. If you like a top and a bottom, then I would choose 2 pieces that coordinate to that coat. If you wanted to wear a jumpsuit, anything like that, but I would always work them back to the outerwear piece. And if they're in that color family, if they're all working together, then you can mix in all the neutrals that you want. See, if you start with basics and what are the core pieces and they're boring, a good black blazer, you're always going to look boring. If you buy an amazing pair of navy blue trousers and you have a mustard yellow coat and you do a beautiful cream jumper, if you had a black blazer, you're not going to wear it because it doesn't work. But you would say, actually, what would be really nice is a light blue blazer. And so then you go looking for it that way. So that's why I like to start working with the coat, thinking about color more. If we wanted to talk about kind of trends, pastels are still really big right now, and they're lovely and they're light for summer, and I think they transcend for a long time. It was lilac it was pink for a long time, then it was lilac, and now we're moving to green. But I think you buy what makes your heart sing, and you go from there. And it doesn't have to be a coat. You find a fabulous pair of shoes, build from the shoes, but find something fabulous and build from there. That's my advice for summer dressing.
I like that a lot, actually. Right, Gemma has a question as well. Our Gemma, she's got a question saying the games industry tends to be a relaxed dress code, but she's found that being at a senior management level or board level, it does change. What would you recommend pieces that can be dressed up but also still comfortable and relaxed?
Brilliant question. Thanks, Gemma. That's brilliant. And you know what? I think that's relevant for everyone, not even the games industry, because things are relaxing big time right now. So I have a principle that I apply, which is something in the outfit should be more classically orientated and something should be a little bit more adventurously orientated. So if you wanted to be crazy with color, then I'd keep the silhouette more classic. If you wanted to be bonkers with silhouette, then lots of volumes and crazy shapes, then I would keep the colors quite neutral, because what you don't want to do is walk in and scare the pants off of everybody, right? Is just show up and they're like, oh, she's got a big, this is, I don't understand this, right? That's the concern with that. So, and then what I would do is, instead of buying a matching suit, I would buy things that work well together, that coordinate together, but they weren't designed as coordinates. So I think if you buy a matching suit, whether it's a dress with a coat, or it's a blazer with a trouser, or a skirt with a jacket, but they were designed as a team, in this instance, I probably wouldn't buy them that way. I quite like buying matching sets and mixing and matching, but because that feels quite formal and you're in quite a relaxed industry, but you need to appear professional, what I would do is look for, if you like dresses, I'd start there. And then I'd look for nice jackets and pieces of more structure to go on top. So I do a lot of cardigans, but not the like twee cardigans, like ones that are like a jacket, with a great sleeve and some definition. And so they look like a jacket, but they're a little bit more cozy, because that makes you feel a bit more approachable. But because you've got a structured dress underneath, you feel formal, and that you respect the position you're in and the people that you've come to speak to. Lucy, did you want to add anything? And Gemma, tell me if that made sense, and if I answered, if you got more questions.
I think that sounds great. I think it sounds really useful. There is one more question, so we can carry on, and then always jump back to Gemma if she wants to add anything. And then Gemma, let me know if we want more on that. Also, shoes. I think shoes are an opportunity to show personality. And I think shoes are a really important place to invest money. You can tell the quality difference in shoes. And you will feel so much better because you're running around all day. So start with a good pair of shoes and then build from there. So choose a silhouette that will work with everything, with all different types of garments, and then build from there. That's another good way to think about it. I like that. Right, so this one's anonymous, just as in you can do it with the Q&A, but cool. What's your advice for dressing or style for virtual meetings or interviews?
Oh, brilliant. I had a big chat about this yesterday, because as we are here, so you have this square to make your impression, right? So that's even harder, because your energy is hard to assess online. You don't have the full visual. So I was speaking to a lady yesterday. She's Indian, has beautiful, that deep, rich skin. And she was wearing a white top with an eyelet lace on it. And she had quite, kind of brown makeup, brown lipstick. Her hair was quite done. And she was like, what is your impression of me? And I was like, quite serious, that you want to appear serious and that you really want to be taken seriously. Everything is quite somber and neutral. And she was like, oh, that's awful. I have so much energy. I want people to see like the excitement in me. And I was like, okay, great. Well, so then it's again that balance. So I said, if you're going to wear a white top and an eyelet, which is quite traditional and it's very neutral, then I would bring energy to your face. I would have done, because she has that deep skin, so she can really carry a lot of color. I would have done, a beautiful pink lip. I would have done something softer in her eye, and I would have done her hair a little bit less done, right? Because it just felt very done. And what it needed to be was a little bit less done. And so I think it's also the duality of the two, because your face is as much as the rest of your body. So think about framing necklines where you get shape, so here having a shoulder that's defined with a nice sleeve. You can see me, right? You understand what might be going on waist down. Maybe you've got pajama trousers on, maybe you don't. But here up, you're looking, right? Lucy looks really great because she's got a nice color up by her face, right? She's got a nice opening neckline, which really frames her really nicely, right? And then she's wearing makeup that is bringing definition to her eyes, right? Which is a beautiful feature on you. So you want to bring attention to your eyes. Also, that's how you can pull people in to engage with you, is by defining your eyes more, right? I probably could have done more today, because also when you're on screen, your makeup doesn't read as strong. I don't know if you know that. It doesn't show up as much. So when you go to a conference and you see somebody who's being filmed presenting on stage, they look amazing on the screen. And you see them after and you go, Whew, that's a lot of makeup. It's because the screen, it's taking the light away. And so coming with a little bit more gives a bit of presence to you. Yeah, so if this is super formal, I do this a little bit more fun. And if this is super fun, then I might do this a little bit more tidy. Does that make sense?
It's a great question, because I think so many people are, interviews these days are like this. So much we're trying to network or meet people, or you're meeting people. I mean, one of our sessions earlier on, we were talking to someone who's never met anyone in her business at all she's met, it's all been done by screen. And you do sometimes want to give, it's really hard to portray your personality when you've got this flat surface in front of you. So I can totally understand that. It's really good advice.
And then also jewelry. I didn't even mention jewelry brings light, right? It sparkles. And so it brings, so jewelry is a great thing, so if you've got some amazing pieces, or you wanted to bring more light to your face, to kind of pop a little bit, wear a great necklace or great earrings. Normally I don't do both at the same time. It's always about balance. So if you've got a big necklace, do something more subtle in the ears, or nothing at all. Or do something, really big on the ears, and then just keep the neck a little bit more simple, because it can feel a lot, especially when you can't see the rest. So it's just that balance, but play with it, have fun.
Fantastic. Well, no, there's been some great questions and everything. So I'm sure everyone could chat for ages about it all. It is funny because of, and in this day and age, everyone talks about brand a lot, and everyone talks about personal brand quite a lot. And I think people forget that. And even in the games industry, where we might wear hoodies or we might wear t-shirts and all the rest, there is sometimes this certain, thing outward way you want to give off, sometimes if you do look like a slob when you're going out, that's what people start thinking. And you need to sometimes sort of really take that into account. But no, it's been fascinating. Thank you.
That's a great way to close off, Lucy. I loved that. Wonderful. Well, if anybody had any more questions they wanted to ask, the lines are open. I guess you could say that way. But the girls will circulate a deck afterwards with my contact details and everything. Yeah. Or you can just click on that link and drop us.
That's fab. That's fab. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And actually, we've also put a post about you on our social media, so that anyone can then look in your Instagram and things like that as well to follow. But thank you so much as well for coming and talking to us. And I know I've learned a lot, so I'm sure I will now know what to look for in shops and stuff. That's my plan anyway. But thank you very much.
I can't wait to see what you find.
No, good luck, isn't it?
No, you'll do great. You'll do great. You've now got the foundations.
Exactly. But
I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming.